Since I've started giving my thoughts, my feelings, and even sometimes my redesigns of some of the hottest design cars on the planet today, I've been asked numerous times, what do I think about Polestar's design direction? And today, I'm going to break my silence on what I think about Polestar design when I review the new Polestar 02. Now, Polestar is coming to light fairly recently as an automotive company. Their mothership is Volvo. So coming from that, we know it's going to be a reliable, strong, Scandinavian type of vehicle. Now, Polestar realized that the design of a vehicle is of utmost importance. And they've had the clarity of mind, clarity of decision to actually not put somebody in charge of the company who's an engineer. Because if you look at most of the car companies out there, the person leading the company typically will have an engineering background, but not Polestar. They've actually placed the designer at the helm of the company. Thomas Inglot is in that position doing a fantastic job. Now, without having seen a car, the fact that they have a designer in this leading position of the company gives me the confidence and the interest to look at their car, knowing that they've placed a lot of emphasis on the design language. Now, what I noticed about Polestar is that there is a shade, almost a hint of product design-ness to the car. So the fact that they can give a product so much feeling, so much emotion, so much direction is a plus point for the credibility of the Polestar brand. Now let's explore how they achieved this by diving into the design of the new Polestar 02. So the first thing is to understand that Polestar defines themselves as pure, progressive, and performance. The vehicle here, the Polestar 02, it's a concept obviously, but it defines itself as a sports car, as a new type of sports car. Now, my first impression of this car is not what I would call a redefinition of a sports car. It's basically good design done in a modern way. It's not pushing crazy boundaries. It's not looking radical. It's not trying to say or communicate something else other than what it is. There's a certain amount of control along the surfaces that associate it with the language of product design, but with just enough tweaking, enough sensitivity to the design and to the surfacing to give it that feeling that we often see in some of the most sexiest Italian automobiles. Let's call it a sartorial almost approach. There's a lot of detail on it that you would associate with, again, product design, but handled in the way a car designer would do it. It is communicating one message, and that message is purity. Looking at the front of the car, my first realization that you can create an electric vehicle with a unique face. We don't need the huge radiators that we're seeing in abundance today in car design. They're able to achieve a look that so far hasn't been really propagated throughout the world of car design, but also they have a blade on the top that I wouldn't say is unique, but definitely done in their way. And the whole front of the car with that simplicity, that elegance, that almost linear type of approach makes this Polestar stand out. And we can't deny the fact that the headlight signature on this car is quite unique. It started off very Volvo-esque when Polestar was in its early days, but then again, it's progressed. They've been able to make a signature, light signature that really stands on its own. We know that it's done, well, at least I know that it's basically based off of the Scandinavian Marvel figure called Thor. And Thor is obviously handling his Mjolnir, which is the hammer. If you know the story, it relates back to that. And I think that's very clever, very, of course, Scandinavian, very Swedish. And I keep saying product because when I say product, I almost refer to hard lines. But the interesting fact on this car is if you look at it from the side view, I find it a spectacular side view. Extremely emotional. You see the lines that are crisp, hard, sharp, almost blade-like. that progressively fade out. And that is what I'm talking about sometimes when you look at the difference between product design and car design. You'll have the hardness in products, but it doesn't typically look like it's been treated to be alive. And it does that very well on the O2. And there's just that purity of line that I'm looking at and that I'm seeing throughout the vehicle. The other quite interesting element that I find on this car is the roof itself. Now, it's quite concept-like because it's very rare to see a car with this much glass as a sunroof or a moonroof that heads so far backwards over the rear passengers' heads. But here they've been able to do it in a way that's quite different by pushing, I would imagine, the rear header line further back and not having the need, perhaps because they're running cameras on the side, of having rear glass. So I think Polestar has actually created something that could eventually become obviously something of an advantage by increasing the amount of glass we have over our heads in cars. What Polestar has managed to do is capture the rear end look, which is just as important as the front end look of a car. The rear end captures the Polestar design feel, and it's been able to translate it from, let's say, the S-Class high-end, for example, large type vehicle, and bring it down and make it work for a vehicle of the O2 size, a sportier vehicle. At night, you would be able to tell this is actually an O2 from just that rear light graphic. Another feature that I really like about the rear end of the car is the honesty of the design. There's a purity to the bottom of the car with this diffuser that actually looks like it could work. So many cars today in this segment tend to have diffusers just for aesthetic approaches, tend to have vents or simulated vents just for aesthetic purposes. And this one definitely communicates the right language, the right amount of sportiness for this type of vehicle, and does it again in a true way. The one thing I'm not too convinced about is the drone, but again, this car releases, if you don't know, drone would actually come out of the car off the rear deck at a certain speed, be able to follow you and film your drive. Now that's a great thing, but obviously that would probably be, if ever, it would be an option or an accessory that you could do. Now, as much as Polestar does say that their cars are quite close to production, what we call production intent, I have to argue that a little bit on these cars here, because a concept car, which is what the O2 is always going to look a lot more exciting than the real thing. There are a few elements on this car. If you look at the actual stance, the track of the car compared to the wheel lips, where it actually has to slip inside for suspension travel, even the size of the wheels, I'm not too sure, but I would estimate these wheels to be well above 20 inches. There will be probably less flushness to the glass, to the greenhouse. This is all perhaps what we would call wishful thinking on the designer's part. But again, a few things on here that I see that perhaps won't make it to production. It might lose a little bit of that, how did they do it look? But at the same time, you can see that it is their intent, and for that, Polestar must be applauded. The engineering team, to do something like this, they have to be at the top of their game. Another interesting graphic that I'm just noticing now is the top of the cant rail, or the door to glass, door to roof line, as it comes down, doing a very strato. I know I was gonna mention it earlier, the Lancia Stratos, that kind of coming down on the glass, very also Zagato-ish type line, coming down towards the rear of the door into the corner light. And then you have that edge flowing into what amounts to be the C-pillar. That little graphic there, I do believe I read somewhere that would actually tell you how much charge you have in your car. I don't know why you would put that on the outside of your car. Perhaps they have a reason for it. Might be a bit of another slight gimmick. I do like the wheel design, by the way, because I do feel, again, I stress the importance of wheel design simply because I love shoes, and for me, wheels are the shoes of a car. Credit again to Polestar for putting a spin on wheel design and doing something that looks quite different from any other wheel on the market today. Overall feelings of this car, I haven't found one perspective, one view of this car that I don't like. There's enough curviness, enough straight edginess to it, enough organicness to it, enough hard to soft, enough sensitivity to crowning the surfaces, the details on the actual vehicle itself, going from vents, intakes, vents, door handles, smaller details, lamp, rear tail lights. It's definitely speaking Scandinavian, but at the same time, it makes you love the language that Polestar is actually creating in their design language here. Now, the rating on this car is a little bit of a difficult one. You've got to do it with the idea in mind that this is not a production vehicle, which we will see on the streets. Knowing that this O2 perhaps won't make it to production, but that it does have a strong direction for Polestar to achieve, to reach for in the future, to become their look. I have to rate it highly. There is nothing, like I said, that I don't like about this car. It gives me a good feeling that Polestar is going in this direction, that it is a car that I personally would appreciate, would enjoy owning. For example, if this car actually was the production car and this is what we were getting, it would definitely be a 9.5er. And I say that knowing that I've given the Honda E a 10. Again, I don't have to repeat it, but I will. The Honda E at the moment for me stands head and shoulders above a lot of the sports cars, a lot of the more exciting type of vehicles we've seen before. This car, no less, but again, it's not, for me yet, the production car, and I would rather rate the production car honestly when I see it, when it comes out. So I really enjoyed breaking fresh ground on Polestar for my design reviews. Again, I love the fact that Polestar is doing something unique, full of character, and very, very professionally designed. So thumbs up Polestar for doing such a great job, not only on the Precept, but also on the O2, and for anything else that I'm curious to know is in development by you guys. So thumbs up. Let me know what you guys think about Polestar's new concept, the O2. What are your opinions? What do you think about the design direction that they're going in? If you feel it's good, if you don't like it, your comments are 100% welcome, plus or minus, whatever. Extremely entertaining to read them, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.